Afternoon, everyone. In this video, we're going to do a review of Everwinter real quick. Um, as I've said in the past, I don't really love doing super long battle reports where I talk about all the ins and outs of what happened. If you want to see me break down a game, I have a video where I played Curtis. I think that's different because I can kind of show a replay of it, but without you seeing the game and seeing the roles and whatnot, I feel like the lessons learned are more important, at least for me, than the intricacies of everything. I will go over high level what happened. Um, so Everwinter, 5 games in one day, top cut to top eight for Sunday. I took this Suns list, which I've been talking about in videos, made a lot of videos around why I did certain things. I think the only thing that didn't make it to the last video was I had Wong instead of Bill, who was there instead of Thor 2, and there's some unreleased footage where I talk about this a little bit. He was there for some scroll stuff, some pay-to-flip stuff, where I really was never going to use Wong in the setup I had, and what else? I wasn't going to use Wong, most likely, and Thor 2 was for, I might have mentioned this in a video, I can't remember if I mentioned it in a video for was uncut, but I was like, oh, Thor 2 is only useful if I get priority and I pick my secures and I get demons and they get alien ship. That was like if we get that, I'll be glad I had, Thor 2. I guess the other one would be if we got virus, meteors, and I chose 17 in that case. The point being is, yeah, I didn't think it would come up. So first game was on stream. You can go check out Professor Casual Network. I played against Avengers on Infinity Formula, and I didn't even want to go through it. I won 4 games. I lost 1. I lost to Asgard, where we played 17 demons, alien ship. That's the one where I would have taken Thor 2 if I had him, and I took Blade, Danny, Mummy, Immortal Hulk. I lost by a point or 2, I think, in the end, on round 6. Immortal Hulk died, Thor and Wong died, and it really, there's definitely things I would have done better. And I had some good spikes earlier. The dice were good and bad in different places. But last turn, Loki had to kill Blade with 2 attacks from full. And if he doesn't, I win. If he does, I lose. And so, given the Asgard matchup, I'm not super disappointed in that. It's Asgard. It's always going to be tough. All my opponents were super nice. I got to play a pretty sweet 3 wide 16 Red Skull, Mortal Hawk, Blade against what do you have? He had M'Baku, Time, Gem Namor, Normal Panther, and Okoye. And the problem there for him was, of course, he's 4 wide versus my 3 wide, and he has Okoye, and so I get priority, and I killed Okoye pretty quick, and then so now he's down 2 threat. I still have priority unless I kill people, and he just couldn't do enough damage. He had some pretty bad rolls there. I think the one thing my takeaway from this event was, it's funny how you do all this planning, and you're playing 5 games, right? It's only 5 games. I played 3 squads I've never played before. I had talked about the squads, but I never played them before. The 17 of Frank, Voodoo, Blade, Red Skull 2 I played for the first time, even though I had theorized of it. And then you do all these theories, and then you play it on cubes. I was Infinity Formula cubes versus Hellfire, and I was like, oh, this sucks. It wasn't the team's fault. I still won. But you're like, man, cubes really does suck. I hate taking all the damage from cubes, and it can feel really bad. I think I played 18 Infinity Hammers, and I played the Immortal Hawk, Lockjaw, Voodoo, Blade, and that one felt decent. Yeah, it felt fine. It worked well. I again won. Lockjaw did a safe grab. The only people I didn't use was Bill and A-Bomb because I never got scrolls. I had priority 4 games. One time I didn't have priority. My opponent picked my secures. And then one time I had priority. I picked the enemy. I think I picked my own extracts because we were very similar and stuff like that. So it's weird how the 19 of Blade, Immortal Hawk, Red Skull 2, and Mummy are is a big one, and then it only came up. I only played Mummy twice. Twice. Once. I played Mummy one time, my first game. Didn't play him the second game. I played him versus Asgard. I played him twice. Stuff like that where Mummy's such a good 3, but it just doesn't come up that much. I played Lockjaw twice. The takeaways are there's a lot of combinations in this game and a lot of different scenario setups, and you don't know what you're going to get in the moment. Like, I wouldn't cut A-Bomb from my list necessarily just because he didn't get played. He didn't get played because I'd never played Skrulls, which is a very common one. So that, that's the example there. So I really did like the roster. Would I bring back in Thor 2? I don't know. I just hope he gets nerfed, so I don't even think about it. The Crisis were fine. Again, I didn't get to play Skrulls or Senators. I think we have really cool Senator plays that just I didn't play it. Like, I played Alien Ship twice, Cubes, Virus, and Hammers. So, I had played maybe 1 or 2 games of Alien Ship recently in the last 20 or 30 games, and then I get it twice, right? It's fine. I did realize I would not want to take it myself. I think the biggest takeaway from this roster is 17 just feels rough. I don't like it. I mean, the Frank one was fine, and Frank was fine. He actually didn't do too bad. It just isn't like a roster that... It isn't a threat value I'm, like, excited to play. I played it twice. Played it twice, because once was iHawk. It's just not a threat I'm, like, super excited to play. But I think Infinity Formula is very good for... is good for us. So... It's just because if 17 was solved in some way without Frank, I would drop him and pick something else up, and I don't know what I would pick necessarily, but I don't know. It was fun. I mean, I do think we live on like the knife's edge a bit. Like, even in the games in all the games I won and lost, I feel like there was only one game that felt very like, oh, I'm in pretty good control, and it started early with like some plays and just like dice rolling, and that was the second game versus Wakanda. Like, even like versus my first opponent, who was super nice, he went 0-5. Like, he was not amazing at the game, but that game, if you watch it, was really close, just because, and maybe it was dice rolls. Like people commented to me after like, oh man, he was rolling hot. And I think in the moment you notice it, but you don't like think about it too much because you're trying to win the game. And I ended up winning by a large score, but it was one of those games where there was a moment where I was like, if I was him, I'd beat myself. I think that's how I think about a lot of games too. And I feel like there was 2 games, maybe even 3, where there was a moment in the game where I was like, if I was my opponent, I think I could beat myself. Like, I think there are plays to be made to beat myself, and maybe not 100%. But there were moments where I was like, oh, I'd rather be them right now. And I mean, that's why you play the game, and it's also, it's different when you're the one controlling it. You can see negatives on your side more than maybe they see their own negatives and things that could happen the other way. But it did feel like I was playing on a little bit of a knife's edge. I guess one thing that isn't shocking, even with TTS, but also compared to a lot of the videos I make where I show you guys tricks on an open map, the maps aren't always open, right? Like, that's just the truth. The maps aren't always like what you see on blank maps. There's terrain in the way that mess up grabs. There's just like shit terrain on some of the boards. Like, I didn't really love a lot of the boards I played on. They were fine. Some had like inconsistent sizes where you're like, this should be a 3 and it was a 2, or you're like, oh, this is clearly a 2 and it's like, oh, it's a 3, or a giant fucking sanctum in your deployment zone or right by it where you're like, oh, this kind of sucks. But that's the real life that's the nature of playing in tournaments. Like, that's something you just have to adapt to. And so when you watch a lot of the videos and my advice, like, you really got to play the game and be able to adapt that advice to the situation at hand. Now, as far as I went 4-1, as far as the top 8, I was in 9th because of tiebreakers. My first round opponent went 0-5, so my strength of schedule was kind of rough. And then I think the 3 of us tied on strength of schedule, and then it was points scored, which is a little bit unfortunate. I didn't care. So I don't care because I went home Sunday anyway because there was snow. where I live, and my first train from Monday got canceled, so I rescheduled Sunday as not to be trapped in Boston, especially with work and a kid. And so I was leaving no matter what. Even if I made top 8, it didn't matter. But it was kind of like sad that like I didn't make it based on strength. The schedule will be tied, and then it was points total. And that one kind of feels bad because like my second game, I tabled my opponent, so the score just ends there, right? Should I have kept his last model alive and scored 6 points, to try to end it? And obviously, you never know what's going to happen. Or, because I played the Asgard matchup that was slow, like we got 6 turns, but it was like 13 to 15 or 14 to 12, whatever it was. So, the fact that like the setups can make it so you play like 21-point wins or something like that, I think is a little weird. But there's no other better way to do it, I guess. So that's why I'm kind of just like shrugging my shoulders, like it's fine. I would have been way more annoyed if I was staying and I came in ninth. Came in ninth, air quotes. There were 8 people, 4-1, 2 of us didn't make it. And then one of the 4-1 guys won it all. I don't like top cuts, generally speaking. I think you, like, because I know a lot of people, like, they had, like, an event the next day, but most people just want to play more games. So, like, just do 2 days worth of games. I don't know, like, just play 5 to 6 games over 2 days, and that's it. Like, 42 people didn't get to play on Sunday. And you could do like this random like props to whatever creative thing they thought up. I don't like these random alternate formats. Like I just want to play real MCP and so it feels weird to go to an event, have a top 8, and I don't know. Top 8s are stupid. Is I guess my general opinion of it. I'm not a fan of them at all. I think you just play. But that's for nowhere here nor there. Yeah, everyone performed decently. I can't roster changes. Like again, it sucks because I do feel like Lockjaw got played twice and he did pretty well. I can't. I mean, the last game he actually did very well. But a lot of the meta, I guess, is a little fightier right now. It feels like to where. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It just feels fightier to where like I haven't feel like I've played webs in forever, and so some of the safe grab stuff has felt a little bit more punishable by enemies just like walking across the board at you, and you're like, oh shit, like Voodoo has been good but not great because when they're just punching and there's like one extract to steal, you're not playing webs a bunch or something like that, or some mid range team. It just feels a little worse to have him, I guess. Like you would never drop Voodoo, and he's still a great model, but it just feels weirder when you're in that kind of realm of the game. And so, I feel like I keep telling bots, I feel like I have some really cool sender stuff you can do with like Lockjaw and whoever, and I just don't play it very often, and I don't play it very often versus teams that I want to like I don't know, it just doesn't come up as often as I want. So I don't know if there's any immediate thing I'd change in the roster. I think when Swamp Thing comes out, maybe he gets interesting for like a Danny. Danny has really good uses for like pay to flip stuff where he's a little bit more mobile, semi-safe grab, whatnot. A lot of having 2 power helps early turns. But I don't know if he's like completely necessary for everything I'm doing. Yeah, I mean the only one I can say who I was like, damn, this guy's balls out is Red Skull 2. I mean, it's still scary that, he can die and stuff, but ask my opponents how many, like, blank shot, like, just one-shot people, and they're like, oh, shit, this sucks. Like, he does, like, 6 damage on a shot. It's pretty crazy. So he balled out hard. And so having the 17 probo was definitely a thing. So where are we at now? Well, Everwinter's over. I have the TTS League. I have my lunch meets. I have some locals, but I don't really have a big event until like squad goals, which is in May. So as far as like traveling is concerned, like big traveling, I don't really have anything. I'll still do content and stuff, but I'm not at a point now where like the pressure's off to like play a bunch of MS games. I'll still play them. I think here's what's going to happen. We know changes and crises are coming in the next couple weeks. I'm not going to start a new affiliation 3 or 4 weeks before everything changes. Elsa's coming out, though she doesn't excite me personally. I'm not saying she's bad, but she doesn't like get me going anyway. What I'll probably do is play a mix of this roster. I'll probably swap out things just to try because I'm not locked into any list. Like in the TSS League, if I want to throw in Wong or play an Abomination style where I'm like, okay, Abomination's going to be I'm going to play Abomination over Red Skull 2 purposefully and adjust my extracts and stuff accordingly or whatever. Like I might do stuff like that. I think the other thing I want to try is, so I really do like playing Convocation. So I do think there is a funny Convocation duel you can do with Midnight Suns, which I'll talk about now because it's only been 15 minutes. So is this the one? So this is an interesting Convocation Midnight Suns duel. So I will preface this by saying, whenever someone makes a duel, I tend to go with the question of, what are you trying to solve for with the duel? And I think the real answer here is, I just like both. And it's not this like super genius idea to like cover every single base that I have. It's more just a general. It kind of got here, and I'll explain how it got here. It's kind of just more like, oh, it got to this point, and it maybe I thought to myself, hell, maybe it might work, and so we'll see. And I just like playing both, and this kind of, you can bring it to a game, and like, are you gonna play Convocation or are you gonna play Suns is like two very different things. You know, Leaf did this long time ago, but he was doing probably a little bit more. I don't call it extreme, but he was definitely like extract jank versus like iHawk down the middle. And while I still think there is a little bit, I don't have as much extract jank shit like Nick Fury stuff that he did. And I think my down the middle stuff is a little different with Red Skull 2 and like Mummy. It's a different world. That was like way back in the day. Before like Rhino and stuff came out. So the same idea there, but I'll talk about it a little bit. Just the choices. Do I have my actual Convo roster? So this is my Convocation roster. So this is like, if I was to play pure Convocation tomorrow, it would probably be this, right? Notwithstanding any cards or maybe not even pick these particular Crisis. But the idea is what you've seen me play before, right? Zemo became the Mummy. Red Skull becomes Ultron in this case. I'm just becoming a more Ultron believer with the grunts and whatnot. And so the thought process was, hey, I have this team, right? And then I was like, well, a lot of my Midnight Suns teams revolve around Red Skull 2, and Mummy is him as well. What would it take just to put in Blade and iHawk, right? If I put in Blade and iHawk, I already have affiliated Dr. Voodoo, right? What would it really take? Okay, well, Ari Shang's already here too. Wong is here. I'm not a huge, I'm not the number one believer of Wong in Midnight Suns. In fact, the two top Midnight Suns at Everwinter didn't have Wong, but he is affiliated both ways. You're probably not putting Lockjaw in like that. That is too one-sided of a pick, like too niche in this particular instance. And so you could say, all right, well, if I just need Blade and iHawk, let's put him in for Maw, because Maw is more for central stuff, and then Maw and Ancient One, because I hate Ancient One anyway, right? And so now you kind of get into this world where you say, okay, well, what kind of things is having these two? So these two, and then Rhino changed to Beta Ray Bill. So why did that happen? Two reasons. One, Beta Ray Bill is actually good in both because he's a good model in bumping. He's a safe grab for Suns in Convocation bumping. He's good for pay to flips, and the big reason was in this particular list, like Chi Mastery is like the only Chi Mastery and a Cosmic Ablit are probably the two only droppable cards, and like I didn't have space for Rhino. And a lot of times, like in the games I've been playing lately, like Rhino could be Shang, and you just accept that you don't have Rhino. I mean, I like Rhino a lot, so like it's not some anti-Rhino thing. It's just in this particular version of it, I wanted a cardless 4. You do limit yourself on cards a little bit, but it's not that crazy. I mean, you're taking Bats, Siege, Sack, Brace, um, all the time with Suns pretty much, and okay, then you have one of the 3 character cards. You're always gonna have like Ihawk, Red Skull, or Shang with them. The other way around, Planes is pretty much always good. Um, Ironbound Books is pretty much always good. Brace Sack is always good, and then you're gonna just hope you have one of the 3 characters. Most likely, you'll take Shang, or I guess I gotta eventually look up if there's a team I'd ever run with Convocation without Shang, Ihawk, or Red Skull. And then if there is, then maybe you can make a decision of taking one of them away. You might say, all right, we don't need Cosmic Ablit. It's a great card, don't get me wrong, but you might drop that one or drop. I do think you can drop Chi Mastery. I do think it is a very, very good card. But with playing a Poldock, you can kind of get around not having Chi Mastery, and like you're already kind of loaded up on cards anyway, to where it doesn't matter as much, I guess, if that makes sense. Like you'd already be so loaded on cards that because you're taking Ironbound Books and Plane and Brace and Sack, that like how often would you be? I guess Chi would be the obvious one to take if you have Shang in your roster, but your commentary would be if there's something better and you need it for like Rhino. I guess then you're really lacking if you don't have one of those models in your roster. So it doesn't matter. The card thing is probably why I don't take Rhino, but Bill's also very good in both. And the conversation is not that crazy. Like, okay, when do you take one versus the other? I don't even know. But as far as I was looking at it from the Convocation side of things, whereas like I want to play Convocation, and then you think about what is annoying. Intrusions is very annoying, right? Okay, well, if you get stuck on intrusions, you just go Blade, Immortal Hawk, Mummy, Red Skull. Boom. That's a 19. You can always play it because you're not going to have intrusions. Your enemy will, and so you can pick the 19 pretty much all the time. Boom. Next one, Fisk. Well, there's these weird, like, strange magic Wong, Ebony Maul you can play that you're like, ooh, this is kind of sneaky. And you go, well, how about I just play Immortal Hawk, Red Skull, Blade, which is pretty good on Fisk as well. So, okay, you've now taken care of 2 things on the combo side that are quite annoying. You don't have to worry too much about 15. Like, you can do Blade, Immortal Hawk, Shang, or Beta Ray if you need to. There's not a ton of 15s. There probably is some cute stuff. Shout out to a guy who messaged me. I forgot his name about it. Sorry. About, I think his name's Charlie. He takes Ihawk in Convo, which is not too bad with the bump. He's fine with books. Like, he gives you throws. Like, it's definitely worse teams than like Immortal Hawk, Doctor Strange, Magic at 15. So I can't actually say that that's bad. 15. I mean, it might even be better than the bump side of things, just because you lose bump, but like you just have a little bit different kind of killing and like back range sniping and stuff like that. So you kind of solve in a way Fisk and intrusions. You have this like 19 demons where you can go both ways depending on it. It's actually kind of funny from the other side of things is we talked about how Suns have this really big pain in the ass at 17. I talked about where you're like, man, I'm gonna run Blade, Red Skull, Frank, and Voodoo, and it just feels kind of shitty. Whereas in the Convocation side of things, I think there's a couple 17s that are okay. Let's see if it is in the breakdown. 17 Convocation. Must have him, right? Like, you can run this. That could be Shang if you wanted, to be fair. I would never have Blade in my would never have Blade. This is kind of funny, but I would probably wouldn't run. This one is the one I like too. Like this kind of like in my mind matches up similar to the Blade one, right? Like if you really if you go with all of it, right? If you just take this away and don't choose any option, there's 18 versions. But if you find the one, well, I guess you want to include Red Skull too. Well, you couldn't line it up because I don't have actually. Yeah, I don't have them in my roster. Never mind. That's a dumbass way to think about it. Oh no, I want Red Skull too. Sorry, guys. Like this team lines up with, okay, they both have Voodoo, they both have Red Skull, and you essentially get Strange and Magic versus Blade and Frank, and like these two just actually do really well with power. I mean, Strange is a monster on Infinity, whether it be rotating or just sniping people, or whatnot. So I actually think this is a pretty cool 17 to run on Infinity, and I want to try it. I don't know if it's super good, but it seems pretty good. So yeah, that was just my commentary there. I guess in technicality, you could run. There's only one team for each. Oh, that's crazy. That's a pretty good 18. It's okay. I probably wouldn't run that one there. I like it. Oh, there's 6 here. Okay, 4 here. I do like some of his 20s too. Okay, and continuing on with the commentary is, so not only does it give you a 17 on Infinity, that probably feels a little better. You can probably run Extremist now too instead of the other one, instead of Cosmic Obliteration or what is it? Cosmic? It's not called whatever Cosmic. It's right there, isn't it? It's at the bottom. Do I say it here? Nope. Like I think you could run Riot because I think your 17 with like the magic and stuff is better on it than the other one was. To where, yeah, I just think you get some really cool options. I was also thinking about it the other way, where like if you get the Webs matchup, right? And so we talk a lot about the Webs matchup, and so I guess in the breakdown, if we go like 17s, and let's just say we don't want to play Wong, because fuck Wong, right? Whoa. Do I have something else picked? There's no way I can't play 17 without Wong. Right? Maybe it's 18. Never mind, it's 18 that I'm thinking of. In the 18 versus Webs, like you could run this team, right? Where they all as Midnight Suns. And the funny thing is that Magic, if it was my current roster, this would have to be, who the fuck would it be? I don't even know. Danny and some 4 threat, which would be Bill or Frank. I have no idea what I'd run in 18 versus Webs. But like here it gives you this. And like Magic isn't that bad. Like, okay, Bump doesn't give her a ton. It actually gives her a little bit more than it looks like because one thing that's actually kind of cute you can do is you could bump up double range 4 and then bump backwards. Like that actually is way more relevant than it looks like because like if somebody's just off the point and you need to bump to get to them, either the range 4 or the range 2, you could bump, attack twice, assuming you get a power from your builder, bump backwards with her other one, or, you know, place 2, double attack, and then bump backwards 1. Turn 1, you could walk, bump, shoot somebody with your range 4, and still have power to bump backwards once. There's a lot of things that I think Magic can do that are actually kind of funny in Suns. And just like she's just a good 3-threat versus Webs. Like she's probably better under Convocation because of bumps and planes, but like she's fine. Like as 5 dice Mystic Pierce attacker, like she's comparable to what's his name, Panther, right? Like okay, she doesn't pounce and she doesn't have siege, but you're not going to like cry that you have her. And Shang's really good too. Like all your attacks here, and Mummy can stand in the back and do his mystic attacks to people. And then if you go to 19, you can basically keep the same idea, but just upgrade Blade to Strange, and now have more mystic attackers. And now you're in the Convo leadership, and it's different, right? It's not the same, but it's kind of like similar in its own way. And you have other teams you can do, like the super tall um, Red Skull teams. And I mean, even the teams like this, if you're on demons, like having two people immune is pretty good. Again, Bill just kind of fits in both cases. Like if you're starting at like 20 is another thing too, right? Like, so if your scrolls, even though I took it, was always annoying with convocation because, you can get really fucked by the push, especially without eyes on the prize. And so I was doing a lot of things where, hoping a terrain piece would block me, and using Rhino to grab them, which is still good. But now you can start running teams like you can just run it as Suns, right? And so you can run these like Blade, like this team. You can run this team where you have double safe grabs if you don't have priority, or even if you do have priority, you can threaten a safe grab on one and force them to go to it. You can safe grab with Bill and then say, hey, if you're going on the other side, Red Skull's right in front of you, or Voodoo's right in front of you, or somebody's right in front of you. Or if you're playing something like Scoundrels. So Scoundrels was one from the Midnight Sun side I hadn't done a ton, and we're not bad at it necessarily, but Blade is whatever on it. He's not amazing. He's just fine, in my opinion, on it. We don't have some like inherent advantage on it. But now you can, I've always enjoyed playing Suns. I guess I should take off. Like, I am legit, like, if you look at my last 103 games on Longshanks, I'm like 19-0 on Scoundrels. I think I have like one loss on Scoundrels in like the last however long, at least from a ranked, from a like a documented game perspective. I win Scoundrels a lot. And so I feel very comfortable there. Yes, sure, maybe Webb's going to beat me there or whatever. But you get teams like this one right here is not bad on Scoundrels. Or you can do the Wong version where you have, there's other ones I liked. This one, not that one. The Red Skull, like this one's pretty good. I think Johnny ran this in a game I saw where if he wasn't against like 8-wide Weapon X, which he almost won anyway, I actually think it is pretty good. This is kind of like where I used to run Rhino and Ultron 2, okay? Red Skull and Shang are not the same. But, having the grunts count for one. Red Skull can push people. Shang can push people. You have steals. But it depends, right? Like, there are extracts and stuff. Like, if you need safe grabs and you're really worried, you can take the Suns version and have the safe grabs. If you want to more displace people off points, you have the Strange-led ones. Strange is a little better versus Shang's, for example. I always felt like Shang was a really annoying model, and he's very popular. But having somebody like Mummy and Strange on the same team starts to make Shang a little sad because you can snipe him from really far with energy with him. And, any range 4, even Magic is not bad from a far away at attacking Shang. So, yeah, it's cool, I'll say. I'm not going to go and say this is an amazing roster, but it's kind of fun because it takes, here's why I like it in my head. And then, okay, because Wong, I can run like the Red Skull 2, Eyehawk, Blade, Wong 18 if I really want to, which I have already made a whole video on why I think that's interesting. My commentary would be this. There are threat levels I think that kind of suck. I think 17 sucks with Suns, and I think in those scenarios where you take Infinity, like, I do think that Convo can do it very well. It's also really tricky to have, like, a Mortal Hawk in Convocation when you just need him, but from the Convocation side, I've always said, like, things are pain in the ass, like intrusions, and Fisk was never, like, the brokenest one, but Fisk is an example. And now you're kind of like, well, I kind of have them. I have answers for them. I have very fun teams like Red Skull and Mortal Hawk Blade is really fun. Add in Mummy, it's also really fun. Just so happens that is like demons, intrusions, and Fisk can all be covered by those 4 models. And Mummy was already in my list. So basically, I'm adding Blade and Mortal Hawk and some cards, which is obviously a loss, to fill very annoying matchups that, like, what were you running at 19? Like, you're running like Strange Voodoo A1 small. Like, That's not a bad team, but that does not feel good on intrusions. That is not the same as Red Skull 2, Immortal Hawk, Mummy, Blade, for example. That feels much better. And so people don't know what you're going to take either. So it's kind of funny, and you can bump both ways. I got to think of a cool name for it, though. Something like My Bumps, My Bumps, My Bumps, like that Black Eyed Peas song. So I might take this to an event. I told playing Nobility in the last round of lunch meet, and I told him that I wouldn't play Convocation against him because he hates it because he's playing his defender. So I will probably play my Pure Sons versus him. I might play this tonight in the league. I haven't figured out all these yet. I think this is like my first go around of it. It might be a little. It might be a little too Convo leaning. I don't know if that's true or not. Is there any 17? Like, if I just let's just look for a second. One more thing. I'm just curious if I played Fisk, what the teams would look like. So let's just assume I always wanted iHawk. This is easy because it'd be this one, right? We can pin it, add to favorites. At 17, is there anything that's like insanely cool? Not really, not particularly. I guess 18 you can throw Wong in to that. 19 is pretty simple. 20, I can't throw Shang in, so it'd have to be Voodoo. This is, I guess, is okay. They would definitely be Scrolls. Fisk 20 is Scrolls. Hammers, this could be Hammers. I guess I'd be okay with Hammers being like this. I don't know. I don't know if this is enough to make me put in Fisk. But just note that the option is there. Yeah. I don't know if I would make one. I guess, I mean, Infinity can be both if the point value is right? Like, that was very heavily dependent on threat level. I do wonder if, yeah, it might be a little bit less, it's probably more Convo leaning, and then just like, if you're playing on I wouldn't probably take Spider Infected. I'd probably take Virus back. I'd probably take Virus Extreme. I might even take Scrolls. I think I wouldn't take Spider Infected. I'd probably take Virus and potentially Scrolls because I do have a good Scrolls team. And just then I'm getting my threat levels. Like 19 seems to be like the sweet spot for both of them a little bit. Yeah, I might take this tonight in my cuts game. Not cuts, in my just league game. It's just fun to be able to choose both and not have to do one. And then when you are playing, I guess the final statement would be when you are playing Convocation and when you are playing Suns, you are playing some of the most fun versions of those rosters. That's why I think as a duel, it's interesting to me. In that, if I play 17, I'm not playing like this weird ass version where I'm like, it feels kind of weird. But when I am, I'm not playing like Agent One and Frank, these models that I'm like, okay, they fill some need because of certain points, but they aren't like ideal for me. That's why I think this is, at least in my eyes, a little bit interesting. And I think Beta Ray could probably, well, who knows? You're probably one card, one model short, but nothing can really be dropped unless I think of Wongless situations. But thanks for listening.